Eagles held their first practice of training camp, and my immediate feeling, the immediate vibe that I got, Jalen Hurts is gonna have a monster year. Dallas still stinks. Yo, by the way, Dingbat here, and today we're going to talk about practice, because the Eagles had their first practice of training camp, and the immediate vibe that I got, the immediate feeling that I got, I think Jalen Hurts looks focused. I think he has a chip on his shoulder, and I think he has adjusted to the things he needed to adjust to, especially in engaging the team, and he is going to have a monster year. You can feel it. Now, before we get into all of that, we got to go over some football injuries and things like that absolutely suck. The Eagles said this today: we have placed tackle Gottlieb Ideyazi, wide receiver Shaq Davis, and DB Cooper Dejean on the non-active, non-football injury list, and safety Sidney Brown on the active, physically unable to perform list. Now, for you guys, most of you guys do know Cooper Dejean, he's going to be out 3 weeks. Stav Kleeman wrote this: Breaking Pound Eagles rookie defensive back Cooper Dejean suffered a hamstring injury while training and will begin training camp on the NFI list per Jay Fowler. He will be sidelined at least 3 weeks. Now, this is a real bummer. Let's just be honest. And the reason why, because Cooper Dejean needs the reps. He needs to be at practice. This puts him behind the 8 ball. So now, here's a guy that's going to miss the first 3 weeks. That's at least 2 preseason games. And then you have to even wonder, will he be ready for the preseason, the final preseason game? So Cooper Dejean is going to be behind the 8 ball. And for that reason, I would now consider signing Justin Simmons. And I'll speak more on why later on, probably in another video or something, because that's a whole separate thing. But I have reasons for saying that. Now, today at practice, Jeff McClain put out the practice report, and we always start these by going over the injury list. Pound Eagles practice report. Besides the moves that we already heard, will not practice. Landon Dickerson, toe laceration, must have hung out with Avonte Maddox. Brent Toth, hamstring. Both players are day to day. I don't think it'll be anything of a big deal or anything like that. But those guys are out. So with Landon Dickerson out today, Mekhi Becton started at left guard. Now he might have been the champ of camp. Okay, the guy goes out there. He's starting at left guard, and he gets sick because of the heat. Goes out a few plays, is just heaving. They were saying like 11 to 13 heaves, man. He was just going to town everywhere. Puts his helmet back on, runs right back on the field, and starts playing. Doesn't miss a beat. I like what we're seeing in Mekhi Becton, and he was starting, like I said, at left guard. Now, I should say this, before practice even started, you had Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni had a press conference in which you barely could hear because there was so many people, kids and stuff in the background. It was ridiculous. However, during the press conference, of course, they talked to Nick Sirianni about Jalen Hurts and their situation and their relationship. He basically said, people don't understand. They're not there. They don't know what they're talking about, basically. So they're all good to go. They're all in a good place. Great. But one of the things he did say that I thought was interesting, at least, was he said that Tyler Steen was going to get first dibs at right guard. So it looks like Steen is going to get first dibs at right guard. And we'll see how he handles it. I think Mekhi Becton is a legit threat, man. Legit threat to start at right guard. I think Mekhi Becton could be huge for the Eagles down the road. If Stoutland can mold this guy and get him to play to the top of his ability and his talent, He's gonna be here a long time. He is going to go nowhere. He's gonna be a stud. And by his focus and by him going out there throwing up the way he was, not missing a beat, it's a good sign what we're seeing from Mekhi Becton. So I really liked what we heard about Becton today, and we'll see how Tyler Steen does. But yeah, they started out with a press conference, and I should also say this. You know, usually the way I do training camp is a little different every year because, you know, you kind of just got to go with how people are watching, what people want. This year we're trying something different. We're going to try live streaming during Eagles practices. When they have like a walkthrough, we won't live stream it, or the day off, we won't live stream it. But on days that they have practices, we're going to at least start out training camp streaming that whenever they're practicing. So if you want to come hang out with me, you're more than welcome to. And then, you know, we'll put out a video later. Usually I do it in the opposite. I do a video first, and then I do a live stream in the middle of the day when I can get a lunch break. I've worked some things with work, so we're going to be doing a lot more streaming this season. So we will be live streaming, just putting it out there. Now, here are some interesting things, and I want to start on the defensive side of the ball. All right, so your initial starting linebackers were Zack Baun and Devin White, okay? Now, I think that you have to remember with the way they put guys in to start, right now is a feeling out process. What I take from it is Devin White was in there pretty much 95% of the time, and they were rotating linebackers around him. So, you know, he's a starter. Same thing at the cornerback position, okay? But Baun is starting, and it's no surprise because of the way he stood out in camp. All right, that's what we heard, and he had a breakup today. And you know, he is a guy that Vic Fangio sees something in, so we have to see. Now, Nakobe Dean got some second-team reps and things like that, and there was a time where he got some first-team reps. I believe they were on 11 on 11s, but. Brandon Lee Gouton wrote this: Zack Baun and Devin White, first-team linebackers, no Nakobe Dean. That was early in practice, and then they rotated in. Same thing with the cornerback situation. Your first-team corners to start practice on 7-on-7s were Darius Slay and Isaiah Rodgers. Now, this is pretty interesting, in my opinion, because you think, well, where's James Bradberry? Where's Bradberry? Bradberry was at safety again, not even starting. He was taking second-team safety reps. All right? Clearly, Bradberry is on the outs. Now, I think the Eagles, and we have to watch how they talk about Bradberry in camp. See if they try to build him up, try to get his equity up, make him look like he's versatile and can do all these things, and then they trade him. But I don't think Bradberry will be on this team by the time the season starts. Whether they trade him for nothing or whatever, but it doesn't look good, okay? But Isaiah Rodgers was your first team with Slay. Now, they did the same thing. I got to say, they did the same thing they did with the linebackers. You had Slay, and he's pretty much the guy, and they rotated guys around it. So you had Isaiah Rodgers started as a starting corner when it first started. You also had Ringo rotate in there and get some starting reps with Slay. And then you had Quinyon Mitchell and Ringo were basically your second team corners. So it's really interesting. And then Avonte Maddox was starting, he was starting in the nickel. So what I think we have to keep in mind is this. If you look at the things like Baun, right? You look at Baun, you look at Isaiah Rodgers. These are two standouts from OTAs. So the Eagles are really only going on what they have seen at OTAs and stuff like that. And we're just starting. And they're rotating guys around Devin White, who's going to be starting, and Darius Slay, who's going to be starting. And people are now, and during my live stream, I think people are finally seeing one of the arguments I was making is how, with the lineup that you have and the depth charts the way they are, how do you get Quinyon Mitchell up there and get him playing time? Because Isaiah Rodgers is clearly the backup behind, well, I thought behind Bradberry, but Bradberry looks like he's going to possibly be a safety. So you got Rodgers first, and then Ringo was really the guy behind him, and then it was Quinyon Mitchell. So it's going to be interesting to see. I expect Quinyon Mitchell will get some reps with Slay as well. There's going to be a battle depth chart-wise. Same thing with Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean, he didn't start out starting, but they did rotate him in. But Devin White was always pretty much that mainstay, so he's a starter. So it's going to be interesting, right? Nakobe Dean also did take some reps with Zach Bond. Nakobe Dean and Brandon Lee Gouton wrote this. Nakobe Dean now with Zach Bond, the first team linebackers in the second set of 11-on-11s. I think that was more about getting Devin White a breather. Maybe they wanted to see how it looked. Then your first team defense, 7-on-7s, it was Slay and Ringo at one point. It started with Isaiah Rodgers. It's gonna be interesting. I think the Eagles, from basically what I can take so far, is they're trying to get a feel for what they're going to do, okay? They're trying to get a feel for who's going to be where. And we're going to have to see how this thing plays out, Like I said, Brandon Lee Gouton wrote this. Ringo and Quinyon Mitchell were the second team outside corners. Bradberry is a safety next to Tristan McCallum. Boy, has Bradberry fallen off the way, man. He really did. Kind of crazy, to be honest with you. So interesting things. The one thing about these practice, right, especially when you got no pads and stuff like that, it's very hard to judge the line. You look at Carter, you look at Davis. We heard that Bryce Huff looks very fast. Nolan Smith gained some weight, put some size on. But these guys, it's very hard to see how they're going to look on days like this, on practices like this. It's really about the wide receivers, the tight end, the corners, the safeties, the linebackers. Do you have guys getting some pass breakups? I think Dean had a pass breakup. Bond made a couple plays. But it's really hard to tell. And especially day one, where it's more like almost like an OTA type practice. It's going to get more intense as we go on. I think if you had to ask me who I think the standout of the day was, I'm going to say two people. I'm going to say our boy Jalen Hurts and Parris Campbell. Wide receiver number 3. Parris Campbell had 3-4 balls thrown to him right away early. Most of the passes and stuff today by Jalen Hurts were a lot of short passes. A lot of passes and stuff to Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is going to be used like crazy this year. I don't think people understand how much he is going to be a difference maker. They're not going to use him like DeAndre Swift. They're not going to use him like Miles Sanders. This is a whole new ball game, okay? But if I had to say who was my standouts today, I think Parris Campbell, non-quarterback, I just think he stood out. And I'll also say Mekhi Becton. I love the attitude. Going in there, throwing up, puking your guts out, and he's right back on there. I like what I'm seeing so far from Becton. Is that okay? Hold on. All right. So, that's not a bad situation that we're in. I also want to say this. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a monster year. I mean, there's this, sometimes you get this feeling. You get this feeling like, man, this guy is going to have a big year. He is going to have a monster year. And I thought in the Jalen Hurts press conference today, I thought the way he answered the questions, I thought the way maybe you wouldn't call it opening up, but I thought that things that he said really made me say, all right, some of the issues the Eagles talked about being more vocal in some ways with the team, more engaging with the players, he's doing it. He said that much. He said, I'm not going to reveal all the things to you guys, but he's doing the things he has to do. Saquon Barkley said he's a natural born leader. I think Jalen Hurts looks. I think he looks like he is going to have a monster year. And by all accounts, we heard nothing but good things today. We heard that he looked very sharp, because if you remember the last practice, At the end of the OTAs, everybody was crying and going off the deep end about Jalen Hurts having a bad practice and how bad it was, and the sky was falling. It was totally ridiculous. All right, but Jalen Hurts, he's looking sharp as we start camp, which is good. You know, no pads on or anything like that. So take it for what it is. But I don't know. There's a feeling. I don't know if you guys are feeling it, but there's a sense watching him, listening to him to talk. This dude is his mind is on target. He's locked in. Jalen Hurts is locked in, and he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he's got something to prove. And I think he is going to go out there, and I think he's going to have a monster year, and I cannot wait. So, you didn't hear too much about A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith. I wouldn't worry about those things. I will say this. The pass of the day was Jalen Hurts on a 35-yard touchdown pass to Dallas Goedert. Good to see Dallas Goedert getting in on it early. I want to see that. I want to see the Dallas Goederts get in on plays. I want to see Parris Campbell in on whoever starts at that third wide receiver spot, which right now Parris Campbell seems like he's the guy. But I want to see those guys make plays early in camp, be a part of things. You know what you have in A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. People are about the world's going to see what they have in Saquon Barkley. But I thought Jalen Hurts. I like what I heard. I liked not just what I heard. I liked the sound it made. You know what I'm saying? I liked the sound. It was like you could tell he's ready to go. If you remember last year, guys could say something, but the tone in their voice was defeated. Jalen Hurts, to me, his tone is, I'm locked in, and we're about to prove all these mother humpers wrong. And that's exactly what I want to hear from him. Also, I'll say this, during returning punts, they had Britton Covey, John Ross, Anaya Smith, and Isaiah Rodgers. Will Covey, will he make this team? I mean, you have legit threats in the return game. Okay, Cooper Dejean, when he comes back, he's another one. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Covey. Can he hold on? Can he keep that job because of special teams? Going to be fascinating. Day one of practice is in the books. There is more to come. We will be back with practice tomorrow, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot to talk about. With that said, take care. Talk to you later, of course. Don't be a dingbat. Remember, it's Howie Vision, baby. We're all just living in it. So I want to introduce you to one of the new fans of the Eagles who could not get enough of the Philly 500 live stream, what was going on right here. I want to welcome our little 4-week-old friend. No name yet. We're still getting to just start to figure out who's who because they all look alike right now. But this one keeps walking up towards me, is very interested in what I'm doing here. So I wanted to show you guys. Say hi. Say hi. Yeah. Says hi. Go Birds. Denzel Washington and the little one. Out.
Hi, Michael Anthony Fitness here, MAF.
That's all, folks.
The brother screwed us.